Hello, guys, and welcome to the Blink Podcast, Season 2, Episode 11. And today, 5 ways to recession-proof your business. Boy, don't we need that help today. Hello guys, Jonathan Creek, co-host of the #1 podcast somewhere between New Zealand and Australia. Today is such an important topic. I'm out in the market, I'm meeting people, Darren's out in the market, he's meeting people, and we're both hearing the same thing, the same complaints, the same whinges, the same whines. My business isn't performing how it was. Well, the problem is, in New Zealand at least, we're on a flatline recession. Australia's on its way to recession, but that doesn't mean your business has to stop. You can keep it going. In fact, you could have the best end of your year that you've ever seen if you just get these 5 things right. So let me introduce my great co-host all the way from Auckland, New Zealand, Darren Pratley. Welcome aboard. This is such a massive and important topic.
So important, mate, and it's wicked. Like your intro there today, for me, sets the tone, right? Because I'm just going, that energy, that engagement, that commitment to what we need to be doing in our businesses actually gets us through these challenging times, mate. We've just had this media storm about recession and how bad it is. And to be honest, yes, we've technically gone into recession, but basically we're flatlined, right? So our economy is flatlined. When you look at the volume of money pumped in during COVID from the government, we had a situation now where all of a sudden the economy caught fire, and now the Reserve Bank has been trying to slow the place down and really pull back the reins. So that is having an effect, and it's causing our economy to be very flat. But that doesn't mean your business has to be. And I think we've just got to bring a game, right? And I think the topic that you have worked on and we've collaborated on today, I think is perfect for people to be listening to while they're out in the car or out on their walk.
That's it. And I think tip number 5, you've got to hang around for it, guys. It is the game changer, tip number 5. And that's why we put it at number 5, so that you had to listen to the whole show before you get to it. We're no dummies here. We know our marketing. We know how to draw you in. We know how to draw you in. We've played the game. Now, here's the thing, Darren. I'm no economist. Maybe year 10 economics was about as far as I went into studying the economy. But there's 2 things going on here, I reckon. We've got inflation. That seems to be the thing. Now, Nowhere, anywhere in mainstream media has anyone, none of these experts, been able to tell me what I need to do from my position in my family, in my home where I am right now, to wind back inflation. No one's told me, hey, do this, this, and this, and within 3 months we'll be out of inflation if we all do it. No one's told me. All that's happened is I'm paying more for petrol. I'm paying more for groceries. I'm paying more for stuff. The other thing that gets me with inflation is everyone's complaining, it's inflation and recession and all this sort of stuff. Doesn't inflation mean that there's too much money in the market?
Yep, 100%. And also, too, what the recession is, that they're pulling back on the purse strings and increasing interest rates, making the household have to pay more for any debt. And then what happens is that means you've got less money to spend on consumable products, which again slows the economy down, which then hopefully reduces the inflation. But this is the part for us in New Zealand. We've had a government over the last few years that have been very, very good at pumping money into the economy through government spending. Now, what we can do as consumers is, yes, we can wind back our spending, but the problem we've had is a government that's really continuing to put, big, large sums of money back into the economy, which just fuels inflation. So really tough time from that perspective. But this is the piece that and you notice in the conversation we've just had, right? There's a lot of sort of rabbit holes you could go down very quickly about actually how it would affect my life, my business, what have I got to do, what should I be doing differently? But actually, I think what we've got to be doing is getting some real clear plans of heading in a direction to get us away from diving too deep into this concept of recession.
Here's my observation. As the great economist that I am, recognised, will be looked back on in time as a economic stoic.
Oh, I can see it now.
There's no blanket that covers every scenario here.
No.
So we're talking about inflation. We're talking about you've got to rein in. You can't spend. The politicians in this great state that I live in, once great state, may I say, the highest tax state in Australia, the one with also the biggest debt, the politicians have just given themselves a massive pay rise, and the Premier, who has created this economic disaster, is now the highest paid Premier in Australia. He's also going after landlords. If you've got a second property worth over $50,000, I don't know anyone who has a second property worth under $50,000, you're paying extra land tax to pay for all these COVID payments. Now, I'm getting a little bit political, so I'm going to wind it back. Here's the other scenario. We've got inflation. They're saying the Prime Minister's standing up, saying we've got inflation, we've got to wind it all back. He's just made childcare free in the whole country for everyone. So guess what's going to happen? Where all that childcare money's now going to go?
So
it's going to go to big wide TVs and jet skis and.
So this is exactly what's happening, mate. So what you and I can do as a consumer is we can wind back our spend. We'll pay higher interest rates, which means we have got less disposable income. But the government and the environment that we've got at the moment is still pushing these vast amounts of money into the economies, which is causing this inflationary pressure. And, in New Zealand, we've just had the International Monetary Fund just been saying, in terms of New Zealand, just government, woe it up. Tighten up your spending because it ain't helping your economy. And from a government perspective, you need to woe it up. And I'm not sure that our illustrious leaders are actually listening to this, because I think, especially for us, we're coming into an election period. So we've got an election in October, and mate, we're looking for lollies because we're wanting to buy some votes. So it's going to be a very interesting time. That's for sure.
Yes, well, we've just come out of the election. Obviously, the unwinnable election that the evil. Oh, actually, I won't say that. The unwinnable election that was won by dictator Dan, who's now popping a whole lot of surprises onto the great people who voted for him. It's going to be interesting because they're still going through with the promises, like he sweetened it. So might be in that trouble in New Zealand where these politicians start promising things that are going to set you back even further. And what we really need is some fiscal responsibility. But what we also need in times of a recession, particularly for the people listening who are running their own businesses or operating as their own businesses under the umbrella of a bigger brand, like a real estate agent or a car salesperson, is you have to be responsible for your own actions. I think that's the key. You've got to be responsible for your own actions. And I think, number one, the first point, is all about your mindset. And I think this is really important, not to buy into the narrative. And this is something that I discovered maybe 6 or 7 years ago, because I came from a news background. So I was so dialed into the day-to-day news. I was so in it. I was at the front line of it. I was watching it all unfold. And I remember I used to go to family dinners or functions with my family, and my brothers would sit there and go, no one cares. Like, okay, that's interesting, but no, you just keep soldiering on. It doesn't really affect us. Like, it doesn't happen to normal people, or it doesn't affect normal people. Just set your own narrative and move forward. And I think that is a really important point here. The first point, don't buy into the bullshit. Set your own narrative and just live in your own little bubble. Of course, you've got to know about the bigger macro things, but you can make a difference on the desk in front of you by picking up your phone. You can change your world within 4 or 5 phone calls.
100%. And you see, this is the part that I say is you have to be intentional about controlling that mindset. You have to be purposeful, because if you're not, you're just going to accept what comes at you from whatever medium you're listening to, right? And I congratulate you for listening to this podcast, because our view of this is, hey, yes, market's tough, challenging, difficult, things are tough and might not be easy for you. But you know what? There's still massive opportunity out there for you to be successful, like massive opportunity, right? But you've got to go and get it. So your mindset has got to be, hey, I can go and get it. I am going to be the person that makes a difference. I am going to take control of my own destiny here. And I'm not looking for somebody else to give me the plan or the direction. I'm going to set it and go for it. And I think that mindset positioning, man, is so important these days because there's so much negativity and there's so much, looking for other people to help you out or giving you the golden ticket, when actually most of the time there isn't one. It's just a case of you understanding where you're at in your business, creating that plan and believing that narrative until you change it.
That's the default, though, right? Of good times. The default of good times is I might have a bad week, but you know what? Next week, the universe is going to deliver. Yeah, there was so much talk about, just put it out to the universe. Bob Proctor and The Secret and all this sort of stuff. It's going to come. It's going to come. Well, guess what? It doesn't always arrive. And then
No.
they change. And then they change the narrative. These are the hard times that are going to make you better. Yeah, they just make it fit. They make it fit. But you know what? It is all a cycle.
Stop it.
But
Yes.
the advantage of the cycle is that if you can actually make it work in hard times.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if you keep doing it, you're gonna murder good times. Like that's the thing, right?
100%. 100%. And this is the mindset piece, right? This is what makes us tough. This is what makes us better. Develops your skills in the best way possible. Mindset is, this is the time I have to go through this, developing some hard knocks, some hard challenges, some development. And then you go, actually, do you know what? I am way better than I was at the start of this tough time. And then as the market again changes, you go, man, I'm better positioned now than I ever could be. So yeah, so important.
We may have just disappointed a few of our crystal polishing listeners. We might have lost a couple there. Sorry, folks, but yeah.
There isn't one. There's no big golden ticket solution here. It's actually building your plan, setting your mindset, and going for it.
Yeah, set your own narrative. That's it. All right, on to number 2. What do you reckon?
Number 2 is, and this is one that I really encourage people to be thinking about right now, because this is a really good one for right now, is to widen your base of connection. So that means widen the base of connection that you're talking to, grow the group of people that know you, grow the target market that you're wanting to communicate with, have more conversations. Oh, it was funny. I mean, you and I obviously talk about calls and making calls. When we started to talk about this one, the first thing you said to me was double your call number, right? Even you said it, right? So your ability to be able to go in this, quieter recession times, actually just widen your base of people you're communicating with, and actually just be really present with them. And it's certainly something I've done in my business is, we've, been going through this challenging time, and real estate market is challenging and all of that sort of stuff. My good clients have continued to do what they're doing and doing really well, but some out there have been really challenged. And for me, it's made me start to widen my communication out to wider groups of people and being able to work with some different industries as well. So, it's just a case now.
I'm going to cut you off. You're saying the real estate industry is tough, but is it? Because it's not tough for everyone.
It's tough for those that have come in the last 4 years where the market came to them, right? So most real estate agents in the market that came in over the last 4 years, they fluked their first listing, they opened up their first open home, and how many people turned up?
0.
No, about 120 turned up. How many people?
Back in the old days, I thought you were talking now. Sorry, I drifted off. Sorry.
No.
And the reason I drifted off is because in our market, like if you look at the recent story yesterday, we've got an average 3-bedroom house in a suburb not far from Frankston, which is a lovely beachside suburb but doesn't have the greatest neighbours.
Yep.
Just sold for $250,000 above reserve. Now there might be reasons for that, but I looked at the house. It was just a pretty ordinary, tricked up weatherboard. Yeah. $250,000. Like that's not the indications of a market that doesn't have cash buyers.
No, so the buyers are coming back, right? We know they're coming back because everybody knows that, if you said that the market was dropping, if I said to you, hey, you need to buy a house, but the market's dropping, what would you do? You'll wait, right? But as soon as you get a sniff that actually the market's changed and it's starting to move up again and we're starting to get growth in prices, you'll get all those buyers that have been waiting will all of a sudden come back into the market. That's what we're seeing now. That's exactly what we're seeing now. But see, if you have experienced a marketplace where all you had to do was fluke a listing. 100 people turned up for the open home. 25 wanted to buy it, and 6 people wanted to sell theirs. You in real estate have actually been on a cycle where it was really easy, like automotive. You know, we're at a period of time where actually, because you couldn't travel, everyone wanted a new car. So salespeople had a huge amount of people coming in wanting to buy cars, and it was all about supply. Boats, you know, in New Zealand, no one else could travel, so they went and bought a boat. So it had a whole lot of boat dealerships that were used to customers coming to them. But now we're in a situation where actually all of this has stopped. You've got salespeople sitting at their desk, looking at their phone, waiting for it to ring.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think at the moment, and this is something, you know, we say set your own narrative. I don't see this. Like, you and I got a lot of real estate friends in our Facebook feeds, right?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any real estate agents setting the narrative that clearly about the fact that if you are in the cycle where you are going to sell your house in the next 12 months,
Yep.
right now, before spring, is the time to do it, because the buyers are already in.
Yep.
Australia is about to bring in another 500,000 people who have nowhere to live.
Yep.
So the buyers are here. There's not a lot of stock. Everyone's waiting for spring because they're waiting for the market to bounce back. But if you actually put your house on the market now, you're going to have all the competition. Everyone's coming to you. But the agents aren't communicating that to the people who are waiting to sell. So what are they doing? What are you doing?
Not listening to this.
No, get on the podcast, folks.
Come on.
Widen your base. How do you do it? You be more known for what you do, where you do it. You can do it however. I don't care how you do it. Like, I'm a social media guy. Yeah. But I don't care if you letterbox drop. I don't care if you put your face on a bus stop. I don't care if you make more content. Just achieve the goal, which is being known for what you do, where you do it, by more people who need your help. That is all you need to do. You're the expert in your own patch. Work out how to do it.
So mate, it might mean that you have to do all of those, right?
All of them. Why not?
Just widen the base, right? So you've got to communicate more. And so just have a look at your business at the moment and how much of this are you actually doing? How much are you actually widening here, right? Because this is the part that does my head in, is everyone sitting back going, oh, Darren, the market's quiet, so maybe I won't spend any money on marketing, and I won't do any campaigns, and I won't do this, and I won't do that. And I go, okay, cool. So what are you doing then?
Yeah.
So if you're not doing all that, what are you doing? Because we need you to be connecting out there in the marketplace, widening your base, and being really present with it. I think.
No, they're complaining that they're not busy.
Yeah. But
what are you doing with the time?
Yeah, totally. Yep. Love
it. Get up half an hour earlier and make a video between 8:30 and 9 o'clock before you get into the office. Just park your car in a street.
Yep.
Yep. Park your car in a street and make a video and post it, and then by the time you get to the office, you've already started marketing yourself.
So cool. That's a great suggestion.
Before you even start, you're away. Yep. All right. And then don't go back every 15 minutes and check whether people have commented on it or not. Just let it, just let it go, right? Just let it work its magic. One video is not going to save your spring or your summer. You've got to give me 28 days straight. There's a tip. 28 days straight showing up. Right, number 3, connect for a connection, not for the sale. This is all about what we're talking about, right? So step number 2 is widening your base. That's all about getting more conversations. But when you have those conversations, you got to have a bit of romance in this stuff. You can't just be going straight in for home base, right? You're not going straight in for the sale.
Yeah.
Connect for the sake of connecting, because the person that you meet, and I say this all the time even with content, the chances that the person that you're having the conversation with has something to sell or is active in the market or wants to buy a car, it's probably pretty limited. But they know on a weekly basis 320 other people. That's who they converse with. That's the average. Yep. So if you don't go in for the sale for them, the chances are you might get a referral from the 320 other people that they know.
100%. 100%. And I think the big thing for me is this whole adage of, you know, how we talk about from time to time, you know, this old sales technique. And there's a whole lot of people out there that talk about the ability to have really, you know, scripts, and you have to use certain words and you have to say certain things. I think nowadays the biggest thing for us all is that we know when scripting is scripted, right? We know when people are not being that authentic and being involved and present in the conversation. So I think nowadays what I just encourage people to do is just actually ask some questions like, how are you? How are you going? How do you enjoy living in this area? What is the things that you might use this product for, or to show me how you would be using this, or what do you want it to do for your family? So it's much more about a depth of that conversation. So you're connecting with that particular customer. And I just think nowadays we've just got to get the ability to be more authentic in the actual conversation, that we're actually going to listen to what they say, and we're actually going to engage with that at a much wider level.
There's something really funny that you just mentioned, right? Around scripts and being not inauthentic, I suppose is the term.
Yeah.
There must be somewhere in Australia a real estate trainer that teaches a particular voice message to leave on a phone. Because I'm making my calls, Darren. I'm making my calls all across this great wide brown land. And just every now and then, I trip over this very scripted, word for word, perfect voicemail. Sorry, I can't take your call at the moment. Bang, 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 bang. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, it probably doesn't affect them too much, to be honest, because the buyers or the clients aren't going to be ringing all the agents.
Totally.
But it just speaks volumes to me about the person I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
If you're willing to compromise the way that you communicate as a person in order to communicate as a person, then you're not going to get past first base. You really are. You're going to run out of things to talk to. And what happens if the client doesn't take the conversation the way the script says you're meant to take it? You're going to be sitting there going, no, don't ask me that. I don't have an answer for it. It's not in the scripts. Like, just be natural. Have a conversation for the sake of knowing the person, getting to know them and their situation. And hey, if you can help, they will ask for help.
Yep. So think about this. If you were invited to a neighborhood barbecue, right? So invited to a neighborhood barbecue, look, Craigie, come on round with a whole lot of people you don't know. Would you sit down at the kitchen table and write yourself out some clear scripting that you would use before you get there? Of course not. Your social skills that you've developed over your life to this point will enable you to handle pretty much whatever's going to come up at the barbecue, right? So this is the thing that we've got to keep thinking about, keep widening our skill set so that we can actually be really present in the conversation. And then we don't have to try and sell. We just have to ask better questions about and understanding the customer need. And then we're in a position to be able to really help. So helping versus selling becomes very, very different.
Now if you're struggling, if you are someone that does struggle to communicate, maybe you're an introvert, maybe you're extremely shy, maybe you're struggling. Firstly, I'd question being in sales.
Yeah.
Maybe not the right career move for you. But if you are a little bit shy or whatever it is and you struggle, here's what you need to do. You need to go to your local shopping centre and you need to walk around for an hour, and in that hour you need to start a conversation with 10 strangers.
Yep.
Just go up to them. Whatever's going on. Gee, love your handbag. Oh, wow. Love those shoes. Where'd you get them? Hey, can you tell me where so-and-so is? You know, where's T2 or where's the shoe shop or whatever it is? Start those conversations and then try and take them further than the actual question that you're asked. It's a sort of gamify it, right? So you've got to do that. That will get you comfortable with actually holding a conversation.
With someone you don't know.
Someone you don't know, right? Get to know them, right?
I was with that.
You'll be stunned. I did it recently, accidentally, by door knocking all my neighbours. I spent 5 hours door knocking 50 neighbours because of this inappropriate development that's coming into the street. And you know what? I loved it. My phone calls in the weeks after that were so much better. And I've been communicating my whole life. That's all I do. But they were so better because I'd met all these different people from all different backgrounds, and
So
you get on the phone and off you go. It's a tool. It's a tool. It's a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better you get at it.
I was at the airport yesterday and met up with one of top real estate agent, and he was talking. We were talking away, and then there was a change of flight, and there were some other people that were sitting further across that obviously were on the same flight. Now, the real estate agent, top agent that I talked to, just naturally started having a conversation with these people that were sitting on some seats further over, and it really dawned on me, right? His skill set to be able to connect with anybody and just to have a conversation. It was all about the flight, where they were going, how are you? And I'm thinking to myself, that's just a nice, easy way for getting that introduction and to building that sort of relationship enough that he could drop into the conversation that he was a real estate agent. And I just go, wow, that's just smart positioning. But it was just because he had the confidence to be able to do that. So, yeah, it was very cool. Very
So
cool.
when the flight got delayed, he didn't lean over and say, "Now, if you or someone in your family is considering selling their house in the next 60 days, what
No,
would I have to deliver to you in order for you to have that conversation with me?" Right? That's what we're talking about here. This is legit. Legit. I get phone calls all the time. I told you the other day I got the phone call from the agent wanting to know if I wanted to list my house, and I spun it round where I actually went back. And Jessica's turned out wonderful. Jessica, if you're listening, she is a big fan of the show, Darren. She's looking forward to her call with you.
Yeah,
But it's just that ability to have the chat and be a bit fun, and don't worry so much about the outcomes. Just meet people, and then they'll get to know what you do, where you do it, and if you can help, it'll happen. Right, moving on. Number 4, what's the value of your offer? Now, this is staggering, but it is an epidemic, really, from big corporate Australia and New Zealand all the way down to sole operators. People just don't understand their value to the market. Like, I'm dealing at the moment with a massive corporation valued in the billions, and it's been around over 100 years, and we're sitting there in a meeting trying to work out what's its value proposition or its customer value proposition to the market. Now, in the past, they've had great customer value propositions and things change, but you would think that it would just evolve. And so you've got to really sit down and work around what's your value to the customer. Now, when I came into real estate in the last couple of years, I had to really work in changing my CVP, customer value proposition, for those who are catching up on these things. I had to change mine from online marketing, online course marketing dudes, e-commerce, to real estate. It changes because, the e-commerce guys, to make 10 grand, they've got to sell a certain amount of products. For a real estate agent to make 10 grand, he's got to sell one house.
Yeah.
So the point is that it does evolve and it does change, but you need to know it. So how does someone, from your perspective, work out their value? How do you work that out?
I think the biggest thing is what sometimes is the whole conversation in sales, which is the benefit versus the sales item versus the benefit, right? So you'll go, oh, it's got a heater. Well, that's great, but that means that actually you'll keep warm, right? So you talk about the warmth, not about the heater, right? Yeah. So this is one of the things that I have all the time is most people will still keep pushing the item or the service proposition or the unique point with it, but actually don't really explain the benefit to the customer practically. Right. So this particular will allow you to do this and this. And based on your need, those are the things that you want solved. rather than just talking about the individual components of your service or the product. And I just see this all the time, right? And I just want, especially the way this market is at the moment, when we've got to be able to understand what our value is to the customer, we've got to be talking about, understanding what their need is and then selling to that or talking to that and explaining the use of the product or service in meeting those needs.
Yeah, it's always the trigger for me when agents start talking about, oh, it's tough in the market at the moment because everyone else is cutting their commission.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the conversation is coming down to commission, you haven't done a good enough job
100%.
telling what you do. Because if you get the conversation right, rather than trying to follow a script, commission's irrelevant. They really probably might ask at the end as a, I don't know, a key point that someone wrote on a note of paper. By the way, what's your commission?
Yep.
But if you can actually transfer your value, communicate your value, they'll go with you regardless, as long as your commission's in the ballpark. Like, we're not talking about pitch it up to 15% and you're going to get a pass. Like, most commissions are within a 0.5 percentage sort of range. As long as you're in that ballpark, they're going to go with you as long as you can communicate your value. And it's
100%.
the same with cars.
100%. But you see, this is even the part, right? You and me as consumers will actually pay more for a service if we believe that service benefits us, right? We'll pay more for an agent who's a rock star in a patch, who's got great negotiation skills, is an area specialist, is someone that builds great bespoke marketing plans, that has got proven skills in those areas, right? We'll pay more for that. Why? Because if you've got a better agent, you're going to get a better price. But
yeah, there's always a headache with a low commission, I reckon.
Oh, man. And it's all then about, and the other one too is, what's the value of my home, or what's the price? Well, as soon as you go down that path, you're dead meat, right? Because all you have to be is a real estate agent that throws the dart the highest on the dartboard and you get all the listings. Well, actually, it doesn't work like that. You've got to actually really be clear on how you position your service to meet the needs of that particular customer. And I think nowadays most sales environments and most businesses have actually got quite a long way from being really clear on what the value is of their product or service to the consumer. And I mean, I spend a lot of time on this to different businesses, and it's just a case of going, well, let's just get a really clear idea about why the hell you'd buy one of these or use one of these. Because once we get a clear handle on that, we then can target and work with the right type of clients who need our service.
I also think, in times like this, people go down strange paths that they wouldn't, like, they justify that this path's right to survive, if you know what I mean. And there's a group over here that they're almost like buyers advocates, but what they do is they refer the agent. They find the best agent in your area for you, the local expert for you. Now, call me cynical or not, Darren, but if you're the best agent in your patch, you're not going to need these services. So essentially what's going to happen, in my opinion, is that, they're all advertised all over radio. We'll find you the best. I don't want to name them because I don't want to deal with the email that's going to follow. But the agents that are signing up to those lead generation people are actually the ones who are going to be prepared to split commissions with that business. So they're prepared to do the job for let's say commission's 1.5%. For 0.75%, what sort of love are you going to get there?
Totally.
Like, this, you're not getting the high quality guys. Like, don't play that game. Just find the person that connects with you the best, and you move on. And you talk about justifying and the amount of money that people will spend for a feeling. Do you want to hear a really silly story?
Go on.
It involves me. I'm willing to put this out there. You know me, Darren. I love Nike. I'm a Nike cowboy. Any chance I get to wear Nike, represent Nike all the time, go back to wearing the same shoes I used to wear when I graffitied trains as a 15-year-old, I'll wear them. But something's happened in my life. This is my midlife crisis. I'm an Air Pegasus guy. I used to run around in Nike Air Pegasus, love them. But I started to get Achilles tendonitis wearing Air Pegasus.
Uh-oh.
And the physio, after taking a few thousand of my dollars trying to stab needles into my Achilles, you can go to TikTok and watch the video, it's quite intriguing, has ruled that I can no longer wear Nike sneakers when I run, and I have to wear these Brooks sneakers. Now,
Ooh.
admittedly, when I put the Brooks sneakers on, the Achilles doesn't hurt. Like, it feels good. But I'm still in this sort of cycle of, these shoes look like old man shuffler shoes. I'm not sure I'm into these. So I'm still investing in trying to get this Achilles tendonitis fixed so that I can go back to wearing Nike sneakers. Because the way the Nike brand represents me and makes me feel. That's a part of my value.
So just think that, mate, when it comes to whether you're a real estate, financial services, whether you're automotive, whatever, all of these different categories that we work in, right? It's exactly building that connection with your audience, right? And our biggest part is just making sure that we understand the consumer or the consumer benefit of using our product or wanting to wear our product or wanting to use our service. We've got to get our heads around that piece, and that's the conversation that we have. You know it. Once you start having those conversations with your network, you are away. And I think the biggest part for me is just getting that much clearer understanding of what you're bringing to the game to benefit your customer, and then really understanding that brand loyalty that develops over time. So great points, mate. Really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I could probably buy a new pair of Brooks sneakers every time I go to the physio, the amount he charges. But anyway, it's a Nike thing. It's a Nike thing. All right, finally, number 5. Now we've built this up. This is quite possibly the greatest tip to recession-proof your sales pipeline.
Yep.
Times are tough. Like, well, are they tough? Yes. People say they're tough if you buy into that narrative. Times are different.
Yep.
All right, and I think people have, can go back to COVID. They're probably a little bit more sensitive to the roller coaster ride that is life.
Yep.
You agree? I think people are probably a bit more reactionary when things go bad than they used to be. If things went bad, just, I'll push on, move on, let's go. And you've got a great tip for avoiding this roller coaster ride of ups and downs that we've all been.
Yep.
It's just so unpredictable, the world at the moment. We've all been on this roller coaster, but there is one way to get through it, right?
You bet. Plan longer term. Plan longer, right? So what you do is, and I say this to teams all the time, Darren, it's tough at the moment. Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, so tell me what you're going to do in January next year. They're like, what? I said, so what are we doing February next year? What about March? What are you doing April next year? And they're like, well, I was just sort of worried about what I'm doing this week. And I'm like, yeah, but you see, once we get caught in this thinking about what's happening today, tomorrow, we actually can start to buy into a lot of this recession mindset of, hey, this is really tough, challenging. But as soon as you start going, okay, so what's it going to look like in January? What's it going to look like in February? All of a sudden, we have to start lifting our head a bit to the horizon and going, well, I'm not 100% sure, but let's just say it's better. What are the things now that I would be doing? Well, I'd have to do this differently, and I'd have to change this, and I'd have to be doing more of this, and I'd have to start to be doing this. And if I did this, then I'd get more results. As soon as you do that, guess what? You've started to lift yourself out of this recession space that we're in now and start giving you a much clearer vision of tomorrow and next year in terms of where you're going. And I just use it all the time, because as soon as you get that longer term view, man, it just changes, because we start to realize that actually this is just a moment in time, right? This is just a period of time that we just have to work our way through. But if we can get our clear clarity of where we're going and why we're going there into that longer term direction, man, it makes it so much easier for us to get through this.
I think that's also a really key point, is that if you are only planning short term, it's a lot easier for you to be derailed. So you look at your scenario yesterday, you're ready to travel, you're all set up, you've done your little airport pick, you're all ready to go, and oh no, the fog came in completely out of your control, your day was derailed, you ended up calling me most of the afternoon because you're bored, you had nothing to do, and this was the problem, that if you're only planning short term, something can happen, you lose 2 days out of your 5, and all of a sudden you're panicking because you've got nothing the next week and you're still trying to make your target for the week that you're in. And if you're in the car industry, you're probably trying to make up the target that you didn't quite meet last month, and you're trying to get those extra ones done so you can go again. So then it snowballs and becomes a disaster. If you've got long-term looking forward, you can look forward and say, okay, well, July, I've already reached half my budget. It's booked in. August, I've already reached half my budget. It's booked in. So it gives you that confidence to be a little bit more braver, a little bit more out there, try things and just keep pushing your boundaries. And you can say, you know what? Maybe because I've already got half my budget for the next 3 or 4 months, you know what? Why don't I increase my target? I'm already halfway there. Why don't I just try and put my original target on top of the half I've already got, and you increase your business by 50%?
It's so, mate, that's easy. This is the pace, right? As soon as you start talking like this, as soon as you start developing a business strategy that's about growth, that's about positive thinking, that's about energy in your environment, all of a sudden you start to move in a direction that you set for next year. Right. And I just go, right now, you have got to build these longer term pictures. And I mean, I'm not someone that talks about depression or that whole mindset space very much. But one of the things that I do notice is, especially if people get themselves in a really bad way in terms of their mental thinking, most of the time it's because of the short term there and now. You know, Darren, my world's terrible because, you know, I'm going through a divorce, or man, it's terrible because, you know, I've lost a parent or someone in my life that's been really important to me. And I just go, look, you got to feel that now. But if you actually project forward and start thinking what it's going to be like looking back at this time, you know, 2 years out or 5 years out or 10 years out, this will be a period of your life that you just go, that happened for me at that time. That was the circumstances that I went through, but it doesn't have to dictate the rest of your life. And this is where the more we can project into what's going to be for next year, the much better plan we're going to have to get us through this recessionary time.
Yeah, and I think when you are planning further ahead, it's action-based.
Yeah.
And you're talking about mental health, you're talking about anxiety, depression. There's a lot of research around it that busyness brings you down. Busyness brings you into this panic state. Busyness and short-term planning, where long-term planning and activity lifts you out of it. So if you are feeling like you're in the funk, and you can go back and watch the episode with John Shackleton, I think it was, I don't know, about episode 5, season 2, you'll find it. It's on all the platforms. If you go back to that episode about the funk, it actually is about just starting to take action.
Yeah.
Get active. Really, the moment you get up and get out of this procrastination state, get out of this just shuffling the papers on your desk because you're busy, then once you start taking the action, whether it's signing one extra mortgage a year, selling one extra car a year, doing 2 extra appraisals a month, sorry, talking a month, not a year, extra mortgage a month, extra car a month, extra appraisal a month, once you start that action, making calls to people who are higher up, people who previously you didn't want to call. Maybe you didn't think you're in there. Give them the chance to say no.
100%.
Because at least when you get off the phone, they're going to hang up the phone and go, oh, that's that Jonathan Creek guy called me. And they're going to start thinking about you.
That's it.
You've cracked the egg and you're starting to make your... Might not be no, it might be no today, but it might not be no forever.
And like just getting a plan for that process, getting a plan in place for next year. Where are you going to go? What's the holidays you're going to have in your diary? Where is the key target periods for growing your business next year? What are the things that you need to have in place and start thinking about? When's the new marketing campaign coming out? When are you rebranding next year? All of that stuff starts to get you thinking about, you know what? This is just a period of time that I've got to get through by doing those core activities. And we've talked about those so many times on these earlier podcasts. But I just go now, it's about starting to make sure that we do not get suckered into this negative recession rubbish and actually get that plan in place.
Avoid those short-term speed humps. Just take them and keep driving.
Keep going.
Well, I think it's been an awesome episode. I think we've hit 5 key points to Recession Proof your sales pipeline. We would really enjoy some feedback in the comments. We want to know whether we're doing a good job or not. Sky in the background thinks that we're doing an awesome job. That's Darren's dog, by the way. And we are really growing. This is starting to gather momentum, so we'd appreciate anyone who's listening to make sure you subscribe both on YouTube and on the podcast platforms you'll see on the ticker below. The way to search, and this is a little bit of a trick, Darren, is you've got to type in Blink, BL-INK. If you don't put the hyphen in there, you end up in a whole lot of dark places on the dark corners of the internet. Or back to one of your favourite bands from the 90s, Blink 182, which
Nice.
I have rediscovered Blink 182 thanks to this podcast. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. They should be paying us royalties, to be honest. We've got them so many extra Spotify plays.
I love it.
Anyway, it's been a great episode. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Sounds good. Catch you soon, everybody.
Peace.